What's up, my friends? Welcome back to another episode of the Strong Life Podcast. I'm here with an old friend, Bert Sorin. Bert and I have known each other, I believe, since '03, possibly '02,
Right.
exchanging emails. And I ordered my first squat rack from you, Bert. I don't know if you recall. I'm going to do a memory recall test. It's hard, There's
Yeah,
been a gazillion people who have ordered from you guys, but do you remember the garage, what I ordered from you?
I think if I was to guess, I think it was an Acme 2001 rack, maybe. I
Dude,
pretty sure it was a rack with a chin-up bar from what I remember, white.
yeah,
I think that was prior to us going to 3x3 tubing. I think it was a 2.5 inch rack. From what I remember, again, it's
yeah,
18 to 19 years.
yes. Dude, I
Um,
can't believe you remember that it was called an Acme rack, and you're right,
it
I
was
forgot.
because the 2000 didn't have a chin-up bar. The 2001 had one, and it had plate storage on it, or no?
Yeah, we added plate storage to the sides, and I
Yeah.
remember saying, Bert, I have a ceiling with a garage with a low ceiling, so you custom made the height, and I
Right,
also requested to, you were dropping the pull-up bar, so we didn't put our head through the ceiling, and I
right,
said, but drill holes to the top because when I get my first gym, I need that thing higher. So it was custom height,
right.
custom paint. And I tell people that I was actually depressed. I traded it for another Sorinex rack. And I'm like kind of depressed still.
It would have
It
been
was
kind
like,
of cool to have the first one, but no, I remember that, and I remember not many. Right around the same time, I think you sent me a text. Remember, you were wearing gray sweatpants and you were lifting a really, really big rock. I can't
yeah,
remember. You were like in your backyard or
backyard. Yeah,
something. Yeah, I have a weird. I can't. I don't know what day it is, but I have a
sure.
strange memory for
I
people
know.
with their equipment.
So yeah, I mean, I think I may have been calling you on a flip phone. I'm not sure if it was text
Oh, I
messaging
was
back
certainly
then.
answering you on the flip phone.
So, that rack was, you're right. I'm not sure if it was a 3x3, but it did have thicker than normal
Pretty sure it was a
tubing.
2.5 inch back then.
Yep.
Yep.
And I remember speaking with you about the color.
Mhm.
And I was like, I love military green. And I said, but I want you to do something special with it. I'm not going to tell you what to do. I'm going to let your artistic nature do whatever it is. And I remember there was going to be a longer wait time for this custom paint. And I was like, it's okay. I'm gonna wait.
And it was custom made for you, right?
Yeah, it was beast. And so it was this military green with like gold specks or like silver gold specks.
Yeah, 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 yeah. So we use the gold vein on that. We haven't used that in a
That's
long
it,
time.
dude. And so a guy,
Remember that?
how
Yeah.
beautiful. So a guy I knew was his company would clear out old gyms, whether it was a collegiate weight room, an old YMCA. It would be in the middle of Manhattan, a Crunch Fitness going out of business. And so he cleared out, I think it may have been a weight room at Princeton University.
Sure.
And he brought me a 3/4 rack. I'm pretty sure that's what you called them.
It was the mini rack. I installed those in 1999
It was a
myself.
mini rack, and then the front had like a half. You know what I
Yes,
mean?
correct.
What were
Absolutely.
those called?
Mini racks.
Mini
Yeah.
racks.
Mini rack.
And
Yeah. So they didn't come up all the way. So it was designed so you could train overhead. But with
yeah,
especially we called them mini racks because they didn't have the full 8 and a half foot height because a lot of people couldn't get them in their houses. There were 8 foot ceilings. So we made
yep,
them a little bit shorter. I think they're around 7.5 feet tall.
you're right.
And you could, but you had the open space so you could still train above overhead lifts and stuff
Overhead.
inside the rack.
That's why. And so he brought that, took the original one. I think he donated it to a high school. And then
Right.
the original one that I had did not need to get secured into the ground, but we had all the weight storage on it.
Sure.
So it was strong. And then I had that rack. He drilled it in. And so that was a kind of a beautiful thing, was like, I'm going to go from one Sorinex rack to the next. And then, set up this gym. We've been at this one location a little over 4 years, and partnered with somebody. And I said, look, I've got like a couple must haves. And so one was like a software system I was going to use. And I said, I'm ordering the equipment and we're going with the best. And that space is 1,960 square feet, but we've got two XL racks in there.
Oh yeah, for sure.
It's
I mean,
beast.
you're one of those guys, like, from a standpoint, from a business side, there's not only the respect of who you are and inspiration that you've given me for 18 or 19 years, just watching. I think we've both grown through the industry at
Yeah.
the same time. And I know you're in your 40s, I'm in my mid 40s.
Yep.
And so kind of we came into this with a lot of energy, a lot of enthusiasm, some strength, some strong backs, and like, let's run at this 100 miles an hour.
Yeah.
And it's awesome to see someone else that, 20 years later, you look, you go, oh, you're still doing this too.
We're still going. And look, Bert, I often tell coaches that you need this grit and staying power in this business. And so I was thinking before we got on this call, it's like, all right, let me think of like all the crazy shit we've been through.
Oh my
And
God.
so we've had the recession in 08, 09. I got hit with Hurricane Sandy, which was 8 years ago, which was like another recession.
Sure.
We had COVID, which went opposite for the gym equipment industry. Like, what the hell is that? Like, how crazy was that for you guys that
Oh,
gym
killed it.
equipment? Yeah. So what happened to you guys? Did people set up more in their homes? I still see you guys setting up new gyms.
Oh, we're backlogged right now. The majority of our stuff, as you well know, I mean, there's obviously the Zach Avaneshes out there that buy the one custom piece, and, and,
Yep.
and some stock items as well. But we've always really been known for, the high end innovative push for more industrial clients, which we'll consider colleges, pro teams, Olympic training centers, stuff like that. So it's usually
Military.
larger orders, military. It's usually we're set up well for that. And that was when COVID hit. A lot of those customers, they purchased quickly because they thought they were going to be out for a couple of weeks. They want to go
Right.
ahead and get ahead of it. And then, anyone in this side of the industry knows, like, the college and pro stuff that kind of dried up because people didn't know, are they going to play football? Football is obviously the big money driver. So
Right.
high schools, colleges, like, hold on, are we going to even have a season this year? And if you're talking about a large school, the funding changes considerably if they're not going to play football.
They
Um,
lost. Somebody told me like a D1 team would lose like $100 million because
very,
of,
very likely. And
yeah,
it's easy to say, well, who cares? I'm not playing football. But if you're a lacrosse player there, or a track and field athlete or whatever, that's where your money comes from. It comes from football. Like, I was a track athlete at South Carolina, and you could get your ego in the way and say, but what about us? I'm like, but people weren't spending millions of dollars to watch me throw the hammer. They were
yeah.
spending a lot of money to watch football. So that is the cash cow. So when that happens, it changes the dynamic of everything. So there was a bit of a scary, oh man, where is our cash cow going to be? But from a blessing standpoint, at the exact same time, almost the exact same rate, the individuals were just ringing our phone off the hook, because not everyone, but a lot of people said, I'm either not going to be able to train at a facility, or something is going to have to change. So a lot of people pivoted. So then we just got inundated with calls of people saying, well, maybe Sorinex was that, hey, I'll do it one day, higher end brand. I've kind of always wanted a Mercedes or a Rolex. And then the kind of people said, well, now's the time to do it because,
Yeah.
so it was a blessing in that way. And a lot of people are setting up like really sweet home gyms now that are saying, this is what I'm going to do. And maybe I'm not doing that vacation with the family this year. So I'm going to put, a couple extra $1,000 into making this my spot. Because if I'm going to spend every day here, I'm going to do it well. So we've been very blessed for that regard, just doing a ton of home gyms and stuff like that. We pivoted in that way, really just to fulfill the need, but we've still had to make sure that we were more and more set up for that, because that's not what we were set up necessarily for right off the bat. I mean, talk to a customer the other day. I said, it's like if you're used to training a battalion of 100 people a day, and then all of a sudden you also have to be a trainer at, LA Fitness, also with 1,000 people coming in. It's like, it's a totally different model. So we've been able to adjust to it relatively well. But still, it's not without its challenges.
No doubt. It was interesting to see how people began to value their health, during this time. They were like, you know what? Like you said, instead of us taking a vacation, I'm going to set us up with a home gym that the
Right.
whole family can use.
Yes.
Or they went like they had something with you guys and they said, you know what? These big gyms aren't going to be the thing anymore. I'm
Right.
going to open up kind of this small, John Wellborn always talks about the boutique. I'm going to
Yeah.
open up a spot with 2 to 4 Sornex racks
Yep.
that will last me until my grandkids and their grandkids
Sure. Sure.
want to lift on it. So
Yeah.
it's
So
been
we really
wild.
started getting that happening. So there were the individuals, but there are also, strangely enough, people opening up gym businesses. But as long as they were in the right location with the right protocols and things like that, they're still being successful.
So
So
yeah,
it's very interesting how, I mean, everyone's going to pivot, right? I mean, the whole world has had to slightly pivot a little bit because we're
yep,
all, I hate to say, make a dollar because you got to put food on the table. So,
100%.
if you sit back and just kind of wait for the storm to pass, you don't know how long that storm is going to
Right.
be. The people who made those pivots early, I think, are still rocking.
No man, no woman can be successful sitting on their hands, waiting for things. My buddy Joe DeSena, who owns that company, Spartan, this is what he says about business. He goes, everything that can go wrong will go wrong. He's like, so you got to always be ready to pivot. His big income was getting people to sign up for races. And he
Mm,
goes, then they couldn't do races anyway. They were in like 20 something countries. And he
sure.
goes, so we became a media conglomerate. We went, he started having Zoom meetings at 5 a.m., 6 a.m., live workouts for the whole world at 7 a.m. And so that mentality
Yeah.
is crucial. And not I'm not patting ourselves on the back. You and I have known each other since '03, and it's just been cool to see the evolution and the staying power. And I guess like you can't have staying power if it's not in your heart. Like if you don't want to fight like Rambo in First Blood for what you believe in, as soon as the first obstacle comes, you're going to just lay down and quit. And you got to believe in what you're doing. And it's crazy is that the fire I had training the kids out of my garage and backyard, like I'm pumped up to get to the gym today for 4 o'clock for those kids, for us to kick ass and just to change lives. And so without that fire, you know,
It can't be something that you're kind of interested in,
that's
right?
right.
You can't like, hey, being strong would be cool, or helping people be cool, or hey,
Yes.
I think there's some money in making racks right now. Let's try that for a minute. I mean, that
Right.
was what it would be like if I say got into refrigeration systems. I know you need it. Maybe there'd be some money to make. Maybe it's a portfolio thing. That's not what I want to base my life around
Yeah.
because it's not interesting to me. But long ago, I signed it on the line, and you did as well. Is the iron game and the strength lifestyle is going to be what we do. That's going to be probably how I make my living and probably what the goals of everything outside of my family and a few hobbies are going to be to try to make that world better. And that's where kind of the relevancy of my name and my bloodline goes. Like, how can we be very valuable to the strength world? Because we really, really, I appreciate what it's done for me, but I love it. And the same with you. Guys like us are going to hold on when probably we shouldn't hold on to get through that storm.
Yeah.
And
You're
had
right.
business people at hard times say, well, you could sell the business or do this or get out or whatever. It's makes a better business thing. It's like, right. It always makes sense from a business model to get out of the fight. It always does. Like, the risk sounds really high and well, don't go and step in the ring. You might get knocked out. Sure, that's part of it, but you never win a championship fight unless if you quit. You never ever do.
If you only, I'll only step in if I know I could win.
That's
You
not a fight.
That's right.
Shut
You've got,
up.
and I equate kind of life and business is, I say it to wrestlers. I go, it's like a never ending wrestling match. You're
Yeah.
up on points, you're down on points. he's winning, you're losing, vice versa. But it's like it never ends. And you've got to be in love with that. And you also just got to have like this guts, like, dude, I'm just not going to lose. I'll pivot,
Right.
but I'm not going to quit. And here's a question, Bert. I have not asked this question for a long time, right? It's the Strong Life podcast. I used to ask people like, what's the toughest thing you've been through and overcame? And so I did not know until I heard you on a podcast years ago with John Wellborn. Your dad had cancer, and he was like, hey man, business is yours, figure it out.
Pretty much.
I did not know that.
Yeah, that was
Yeah.
rough. Yeah, we've been through some tough stuff. I mean, yeah, that one was probably the darkest times because you get to a point where not only your dad and your best friends and your business partner and your mentor and your, all that stuff, your idol in some ways, like your hero, when he's down and out, and it's here's the sword, start swinging, can't help you, I'll do the best I can, kind of don't count my points for the board right now, and I hope you could pull through this one. And that was hard, and there was no one to go to. There was no another me to go, hey, let's share the burden of this, or to like
Mhm.
let me talk to. It was just like, hey, you're kind of on this island, you need to figure this crap out. And your bloodline, your family name, your business, everything kind of rides on this. And at that point, what I got came to was losing is not an option, but you redefine what winning and losing is. Losing at that point was death, was total bankruptcy and death. Anything above that was still winning. Like any foot forward, anytime I woke up, anytime, if we're still breathing, kind of like Jocko says, if you're still breathing, you're in the fight.
Mhm.
So that was a win. A win was maybe we're down, we're owed more people money, there's whatever, we lose a job, whatever, but we're still moving forward. We're still here. Like you haven't killed us off yet. So that was the win. And I had to go for years of going, this is the win. Maybe not making a million, well, all that, like all the normal business practice wins.
Yeah.
A win was just, I'm
I'm,
still here.
I still got my arms and legs.
Still got my arms, legs. Pop, how you doing? Good morning. Sweet. He answered the phone. He's still here. It's a win.
Boom. Points on the board.
Points on the board. Let's get that momentum and work towards it. We could work out of this hole if we have some momentum. And sometimes the momentum was just showing up. And that's
Momentum is
when you talk about
huge.
a wrestling match is it's not are you up on points? Has the buzzer blown and are you still wrestling? You're winning. You're always winning. And I had it written on my wall like there is no such thing as failure, just delayed success. And I would just go off of that. I'm like, people could say we're losing right now. They just don't know yet. I haven't won yet. I haven't won, comma, yet. I haven't won, comma, yet. Then it was like started going, hey, I won today. I won today. I didn't win. I won today and yesterday. I won today and yes. Wow, it looks like I'm probably going to win tomorrow. And then it just starts turning around. But honestly, most people don't have the grit to just stay with it. I mean, if well, they say like, if you're wrestling or fighting a gorilla, do you fight when you get tired? No, you fight when the gorilla gets tired, whatever that is. I'm going to fight you 1 second longer than you fight me, whatever that is. And I was never a wrestler, but I so appreciate that mentality because things were going to look, or I assume will look bleak at all types of times and could change on a dime and this and that and the other. But when you just put yourself into the resolve of, I'm not going anywhere. This is what we do. I'll always figure it out. Cool. We've just blocked off the quitting as even an option.
Yep.
Then everything else is fair game.
That's a zero option.
Zero option.
I explained to some people because, there's strength coaches and facilities everywhere. And some of the facilities are kind of just like a side project for somebody who's got a shit ton of money. They could buy the building, they could hire a bunch of people. And so I explained to the athletes, I go, guys, like this ain't my side project. Like I did build this on legit blood, sweat, and tears. That's just not a saying for me. And so there's a lot like,
Those things are actually in the walls and the floor.
yeah. And so, with you talking about it's a zero option, the pride of like, man, my dad started this. So, I did a interview podcast with Pops a week or 2 weeks ago. And I actually interviewed Pops for like a project I did before 2010. It may have been like '06. We never spoke about everything he built, like building the equipment for University of South Carolina with wood in the basement. And it's like,
69, something like that.
right. And so it's like, that's like, dude, this is what your name is on it. That changes everything. A lot of times people say in business, don't put your name on the business.
It's not a smart idea. I mean, it really isn't. Like you're
Oh,
tying
crap.
yourself to that whale or that bull. Like
Mhm.
it's like being in a rodeo and not being able to let go, right? You're like, I'm tying myself to this bull and I'm going to go on this ride. Staying away off this bull. 8 seconds is just the first 8 seconds,
Yeah.
and that's what it is. And so you're right. Like everyone will tell you not to name it your name. That's just ludicrous. You can't sell it as well. You can't get
That's
out
right.
from under it. Your name, if it fails, your name's ruined. Like that's still a hell of a motivator.
I
You
know,
know,
but it is what it is now.
it
Like,
is what it is. Because I
it,
don't care what business you run, Zach, or what you call your next book, or what you call your training space. My question is Zach M&S running it? Good. Okay, then it's good. I don't give a crap what you call it. It doesn't matter. It's your
right.
name, your response, and like your the relationship that we have and everything about you. Then I know whatever that is, it's going to be top notch, and I could trust it because you're top notch, and I could trust you. It's a hard one because you realize you're putting everything out there on the line, and realize that a screw up could cost everything.
What's interesting is like you talk about like the relationship and knowing the person. So at Summer Strong, you have the oh, I don't know what you call, like the tables with different companies, and so there was a different equipment company there, and I said like I said, I hate to sound like a dick. I go, but I buy pretty much everything from Sorinex. I was like, I've been buying from them since my garage, and he's like, I totally understand, and that stuff is real. When I remember the squat rack. I remember buying my first thick bar from you guys. It was the revolving handle. I think Black Iron made it.
Black Iron, Tom Grace.
I still have it. Dude,
It's
think
a
about
great
this.
bar. It's a great
It'll,
bar. We still have all of ours too.
yeah. So think about this, Bert. Some people look at the cost of things, and I was thinking about this with a kettlebell or this thick bar. So that thick bar, let's say I purchased it in '04. Maybe it was '04. So it's 2021. We're talking like 16 and a half years later. If you divide like every month, it comes out to now like $1 a month.
Yeah, I had this amazing bar for $1 a month.
That's how you look.
Yeah, but if you're only in it for 2 or 3 years and like trying to get a return on investment over 2 or 3, I'm going to get this thing up and going fast. Well, that's when you start looking at the products as a consumable
Yeah.
versus looking at it as an investment. And whether it's anything I'm into, whether it's hunting or shooting or lifting or whatever, I always attempt to buy the best, even when I didn't have the cash to do
That's
it.
right.
People ask me, they go, well, you're going to set up a new rifle to hunt with. I said, are you planning on doing this year or like getting into this? I said, they go, well, this is what I'm going to get into. I said, figure out what your budget is and pick one level above your budget.
True.
Because
I like that.
you'll always be able to skim somewhere. Eat beans for a week.
Yeah.
Freaking figure it out. But
Yeah.
when you look back at your gear, you go, I got the best one that I never have to think about shopping again because I know, like, that bar at home that you had, you go, I don't need to look at other ones. I got a great one that works awesome. And I got to enjoy it for 16 solid years. I got to enjoy an awesome product.
It's like still going. And like, so listen, speaking of awesome products, I have a Toyota 4Runner. You have a Tundra, right?
Pops has a Tundra. I have a F-150.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
I remember Pops last time I saw his truck, he had the Raptor.
He had a Raptor and and then he went with the Tundra after that.
Okay. I saw on Instagram like a year ago, your truck broke down. Was it the Ford?
The board, yeah.
At first I thought it was a Toyota because my Toyota's got like just shy of 200,000 miles. It's at the shop right now, just getting
Amazing machines, right?
it's, I'm telling you, I mean, I don't off-road it, but it's been through, it's taken multiple trips to South Carolina.
Mhm.
I've gone to Florida, Chicago, Texas, Lehigh University twice a week. I've done round trips of,
Yeah.
same day, 400 miles for a year when I was going back and forth to
Right.
Lehigh. So my wife's got an F-150. When I saw it, I was like, I can't believe a Toyota broke down, but now I know.
But now you know.
So what did you have before what do you have, an
Uh,
F-150?
no, I had a Tahoe before. I had a Tahoe forever. I love the versatility of them. And but yeah, Pops, Toyotas are just awesome. Pops had a Toyota a million years ago, an old FJ, and it was
Yes.
just, I mean, that's actually what I was brought home from the hospital when I was born,
Uh-huh.
on the floorboard of a 1974 Land Cruiser.
That is
And he had
funny.
that thing for 20 something years. He started Sorinex and started Sorin Playgrounds out of that Land Cruiser.
Yeah.
And I mean, that thing, we didn't have the money for like machines. And so he would rig up pulleys and winches and like use the vehicle itself to lift things into place. And that thing was a beast. And I
Yeah,
wish,
it's
he still had.
interesting to still see. So I live in a small town. We're near the beach. I still see a lot of those. People by the beach tend to like they collect them. So you still see the Land Rovers, and the military uses them. So all right, so you've got a Ford. How long you had that thing for?
4 years, almost 3.5, 4 years. It's
What
been an awesome vehicle. I mean,
th-
it's great. I've done some customizations to it, and
I
it
saw?
fits me for what I do. And so, maybe I would get a same version of it in a Toyota. Toyotas are awesome vehicles,
Right.
but I would set up the use of it probably the exact same.
Well, is this the one I saw that got customized by Zach Brown?
Yeah.
So what did they do? They wrapped it, and what else?
So we did a Raptor line on it. So it's kind of
Uh-huh.
like a Line X. So the whole thing is sprayed, the whole bed, but the whole outside of it is sprayed. So it's kind of like impervious to everything.
Beautiful.
We put road armor bumpers fore and aft, and then coated those. Have a lighting package top, gear rack on the top, another gear rack. We put a custom camper shell on the back
Yep.
that has toolboxes built into the side. So I have
Wh-
all my
Who built those toolboxes? They did, or
Lear built the toolboxes right here locally, but then we got it put on when I sent it to Zach. Like we took all the component parts and then Raptor lined everything. So it's just a gray. Actually, the name of the actual color is called Son of a Bitch Gray. And
Ah,
so I wanted to take off all the logos and everything. So there's like you can't even. That's what you couldn't even tell it was an F-150.
right. I like
Um,
that.
so it's almost like a Batmobile. It's just
Hell's
murdered
yeah.
out the whole thing. The only two logos it has on it. Well, and we got the front little Ford deal. We switched it out and got billet, aluminum billet milled. We got a Sornex stash in it, red, white, and blue,
Oh, nice.
the front and the back. So that's like, again, I like custom stuff, and
Sure.
and part of it, honestly, it was for me to get the experience that the customers get from us, so I could audit and see. I want to go on that ride and that experience and see what
Yes.
I learned from dealing with another high-end innovative company and go, wow, I love the attention to detail they did here, or I dislike this, or I want more. So part of it is always just running the experiment to go, hey, that thing they did there made me feel really good and I had an awesome experience. We don't do that at Sorinex. Let's take that in because that was really a cool piece that I had never thought of before.
Right.
Part of kind of dealing with that higher end company and innovative companies is my homework. I'm trying to be on the other side of the table and say, wow, I love how they handle this, or I dislike how they handle that. And I can
Yeah.
bring that back to my tribe and say, hey, when I've dealt with ZB Customs, this was super cool that, a month afterwards, they sent me a new set of shackles for my bumper because they didn't like that I had stainless steel pins in a black bumper. So they sent some black Cerakoted pins that they said, this will just look better. And I go,
Right.
I didn't ask for that. And you guys just knew my stuff well enough where a little box showed up. they're like, hey guys, thinking of you, this would be cool. And that type of stuff was just that concierge level service that you go, that's all.
You're
They
like,
should,
oh, I can appreciate this. Now, where's his shop? Is he in South Carolina?
down in Georgia, down in Atlanta.
Okay. So, speaking of, the trucks, custom stuff, have you, I see you go hunting, you take these outdoor trips. What's the furthest you've driven that truck? Have you
I've
gone Midwest
driven
with
into
it?
Missouri, almost to Iowa a few times. I think
Wh-
2 or 3 years it's gone out there.
What was out there? You went hunting?
Yeah, white-tailed deer. We were out there hunting, kind of near where Dan McKim lives.
Okay. Yep.
So we're hunting out there, and my dad and my other mentor, Mr. Wesley, is my dad's best friend. So I go out there with the trip every year. And so my truck, much like it is here, it's kind of my battle wagon. It's my security blanket. So long as I have my truck, usually I have enough things to get me in or out of about anything I could think of. And for me, I'm a gear guy, and part of being a gear guy is to play with and audit gear all the time because I sell to gear guys. And
Right.
so to know the best in class and what works, and again, taking experiential and design elements from different things that I dig, that helps to come up with new designs, whether it's a gun or a bow, or hey, I like how this latch works on this gun, or this scope mount, or this packaging on this was really, really cool. And so just always just trying to make the experience better for the customers. But yeah,
Right.
we drove that out. It's a 20-hour drive or something. It's, super cold, and you're living out of the truck. And so it worked great for that.
Right. It's what's interesting is like if I think back, I don't recall in our early years of kind of always chatting, Bert, that you were hunting and taking these trips. And
Right.
so this weekend, my wife and I went to upstate New York, and we're looking
Cool.
at some property. And I was just like, oh man, it's so like I could do this a lot. Like this is refreshing. And so when did you start kind of taking these regular trips? Because I feel like without these regular escapes, and you're talking about like even just, you know, upgrading your whole truck, getting the whole thing done up, like that stokes and
Yeah.
inspires you and brings creativity. It's like if all you did was work on the weights and just it's you lose
You miss
creativity,
it.
but yeah,
Yeah. You
you've
miss it.
created a lot. You've created a
Right.
lot through the years. If I look at like every year something new, like I wonder if you didn't do all this traveling off grid rack, it's like maybe it never would have come to mind if you didn't spend so much time outdoors.
I agree 100%. So to answer your question, I've always done stuff outdoors, but probably those first years you met me, I was still trying to make an Olympic team.
That's
So
right.
in the hammer throw, so everything, my off time was generally, I still hunted and stuff like that. I just couldn't put the time I could till now, and all my training was revolved around making a 16-pound ball go really far. So when that's the major thing, and so a lot of my information and some of the muse that I had was from the training environment, was from
Right.
visiting coaches and athletes all over the country and all over the world and talking with them constantly. And that was where my mindset was. And so that's where you see a lot of the designs, and those designs and solutions at Sorinex were very heavily inspired by that time period. And you could see it. You could see it in the work, right? And then so later, I kind of had the wife, the kids, and then so really starting to build the business. And I was still in the outdoors. It just wasn't as able to happen. And then as the kids started getting a little bit older, and I kind of go, hey, my ability to lift super heavy and do super powerful things, like
Right.
I'm 40. I'm not going to try to clean 400 pounds anymore. It's just
That's right.
not a goal of mine now because I know what the cost associated with that is. So I said, wow, I've loved the outdoors since I could walk. And now, I have a little bit more financial ability to have a little piece of property. And so things like that. And knowing that I want to tie my kids into growing up with something more
That's the
wholesome.
big thing.
That's the big
That's
thing
this
because now it
weekend.
teaches them,
Yeah.
you know, just a cold, rainy day will teach you a lot. It teaches you toughness. It teaches you planning. You go outside and you didn't plan and bring the right clothing. Well, then you better be tough. You just better tough it out because we're not going home.
Yeah.
we're going to be here for 3 hours doing whatever we're doing. And that's part of like what my dad always taught me. And I teach the kids, like we'll go out doing a duck hunt. I don't care if we kill a duck. It's about going through the process and
Yes.
planning and making sure our gear's on point, making sure we're, doing all those things. And then if you get there and you don't pay attention, you step in the water and your boot fills up and you're cold, sorry, be more careful next time. No, we're not going home. Empty
Yeah.
your boot out, suck it up, because life isn't always easy and great. And so,
If you go home, that's like, hey, this thing happened to business. I'm going to quit. Or, I've been arguing with my wife this month. I'll just get divorced. Like you learn to quit
yeah,
when it's tough.
yeah,
But
yeah, learning not to quit was a big part of it. So as my life went that way more and
right.
more, and more value there, but then also I kind of started seeing the very obvious. I love the outdoors. I love the human performance world. Who better to marry them together than potentially me?
Yeah.
There's other people that are doing it. I didn't come up with that idea, but I look at my phone, I go, I got some of the best outdoors people in the world at this. And also I have some of the best people in the human performance world. Those two people, those people should know one another. So if I could be a
Yes.
conduit in Sornex Outdoors, which is kind of the pet project that we're developing, how do we bring that lifestyle to those who have learned to struggle and strain in the weight room, and then utilize those skills to try something new that they've never done before, that they could always keep growing? I've never been a cardio guy because I was always trying to throw a hammer far. Well, now if I'm going to go out after a mule deer at 7,000 feet elevation and walk 10 miles a day with a 30-pound pack, I have to change my training. But that now
Yeah.
gives me something to train for, that I
It's
can have a
exciting.
focus, where it used to be June 20th, I have to throw to try to make an Olympic team. Everything is driven to that. Then I just go, okay, September 3rd, I'm going to Arizona in the high desert for mule deer, and it's an expensive hunt. You better have your ass ready. So I still get that same driver of training,
Yeah.
and that same wanting to be better versus retire and sit on the couch, and that just never suited me.
I like what you say about just evolving the training. So I clearly remember the early Sornex YouTube of you and Cyborg and just
Yeah.
heavy cleans. And actually, I don't know what you guys did with it, but before I even bought anything from you, we were on the phone and you sent me a VHS tape of a highlight of you guys using everything in the office. The hurricane,
Sure.
just the landmine. I mean, seeing you doing rotations, I was like, what the F is that thing? You guys, the
I
VHS
think it was called
quality.
Advanced Training Solutions was the video. And it was literally for guys like you that go, what do
Yeah.
y'all have new? And I'm like, that was before YouTube, it was before social media. And we're
Yeah.
like, we just went around and did a bunch of videos and put
Right.
them on VHS. And we'd send out and go, hey, this is kind of the stuff we do. You want to buy it?
You guys should see if like the quality of video footage, 20, 22 years ago was so crappy. It looks like it was filmed with a calculator, but if you guys could bring it back to life, I
I'll get a
always think of it.
calculator.
That video, I remember I was like, holy crap, look at this stuff. And
Yeah.
so, but speaking of this kind of evolving your training, that stuff is crucial. It's also exciting. The guys who refuse to evolve, that's a great recipe to get hurt. And yeah, to me, that's with me. Not once this knee is fixed, but I can't wait to be able to move and
Mhm.
hike and run hills. That to me is important. Have you trained yet today, Bert? So today's Monday. Like, what's your training
I haven't
time
trained
now?
yet today. My last training day, I trained Friday. I did some Zerchers and some jammer presses,
Oh, nice.
and then a couple rows and some things. And then Saturday, I was just wrecked. I came home and I was watching my kids play a dinosaur fight at 6:15 p.m. and I woke up at about 11 p.m. still on the couch. Of course, the kids are in bed. I went in the bedroom and I woke up at 11 a.m.
Dude,
My wife was
sometimes
like,
you
"You
need
slept
that.
for 15 hours." And I was like, yeah, it's been a couple of weeks, it's been a couple of rough weeks. And she was just like, so this weekend was just like lay on the floor, play with the kids. I did a little CMB work yesterday just to kind of get moving the end of the
Yeah.
weekend, just kind of
Yep.
do some grease the groove, move around.
Right.
Um, Today I'll train. It'll really depend on my body though. My last couple of weeks I've been a little tweaky,
Yeah.
just kind of I could tell I'm dehydrated and just kind of running hot. So
Yes.
a lot of my training, I realize I'm here for the long haul. So I don't worry about like, oh, I didn't get it in perfectly this week. It's like
Yeah.
probably much like yourself. There's been so under the bar with big weights, and it's always there. It's always coming down the pipe. So I'm more of a crock pot guy. Like
Yes.
my success is in everything I've done has always been the long-term success. Generally, I've been the guy that lasted longer than everyone, or at least into the winner circle at the end. So I'll get it in today. If I want, I might go and do recovery work tonight and then get it in tomorrow. But I
Right.
know that I'm gonna stress my body 3 to 4 times this week sometime. And I'm
Yeah.
not gonna really overly stress it otherwise.
You're done before you're done.
Yeah. Yeah. So that's where I don't really adhere to gotta get it in today because I hate to say it, I don't need an additional stressor in my life.
No
I have
doubt. No
a
doubt.
stressor with
Ju-
business and this and that. I don't need to just start working on my own head.
Yeah, I feel you. You're not trying to kill it. You're just getting the work in, and that's what works at this age. I mean,
44, that's about, yeah. No, if I
if
know I'm gonna, like at 40, I try to work up to a 600-pound deadlift. It was a goal. 10 weeks out, here I wrote this programming. I adhered to the programming. I got my goal, is what I would call I touched the curtain. So you go up and kind of touch about as far as you're going to make it. And then you
yeah,
go, in my opinion, at 40 something, you back off, you regroup, you fill in the blanks, you get some other training, you rebuild your base. And then if I wanted to hit a big weight, I would make a almost like an operational strategy for that. And I go, I'm going to work up, touch the curtain again, but I'm not going to do it more than about twice a year because I know at this stage of my life with other things I have going on, the risk isn't worth the reward.
that's all. Listen, I even think high school kids, as young and as crazy as they are, I'm like, you only got a couple max deadlifts in you a year for them to look really good. I'm not talking about, with your back rounding where it looks like a dog taking a dump. Like that's not a good one. But that's a tough thing for a kid to get is like, hey, don't kill it. We're gonna leave with 10% in the tank.
Yep.
And yeah, don't crush it. Also, you and I, we have the mileage on our body, which
Yeah.
is different. If you just started training at age 40, yeah, you don't have the mileage. So you could get crazy. What about like Bert, some of the guys that you've been setting up, you're into the hunting, John Dudley with Knock On, Matt Best with Black Rifle, those guys are also, how John, is he in his 40s?
John is, I
Out.
think he and I are roughly the same age. Like we're maybe either both 44 or he's
Right,
43. I mean, it's within a age or two, a year or two. Best is a bit younger. I think
right.
he is
30s, mid
both
30s, or low
32,
30s.
33.
So in your mid early 30s, you actually are like in the prime of your strength. But what I'd like to know about is like you guys also recently set up with Joe Rogan. In the process of the setup, like during conversations, did you come away with any aha movements? Were just random I'm sure a lot of random
Yeah. Oh man.
conversations. What's
Oh,
something that stands out? Anything that stands out?
well, all three of those guys are so interesting and they're diverse in many ways and they're so similar in others, and
Yeah.
what I'll say about all three, they're all very intentional. And I think that's one of the biggest things people miss is in just being intentional in life. They know where they want to go. They have long range plans and they're okay with the grind every day to get there. It's not like, hey, this year I'm interested in this. It's like, okay, those might be like micro interests, but my interest is going forward with this. So they're very curious people. All three of them are very great. They're great conversationalists because they're very curious and they're very candid in their conversations.
Right.
Rogan, when we set up his gym, he probably stayed in a day and a half period of time. He was probably in the gym for 8 hours with us, just chatting it up. But here's the interesting part was he was asking questions constantly. So I'm thinking, you're arguably the most powerful endorser on the planet.
Yes.
You're asking more than you were telling.
What was he really intrigued with? What was he curious about?
Recovery methods, a lot of stuff we talked about recovery. We talked about, different supplementation on recovery, different surgical procedures for knee recoveries, and just a lot of interesting stuff like that. You know, and then Dudley is just Dudley's all over the map because he's just so talented in so many ways. But there's always a process, and you look back, like talking to Dud, you know, everyone knows him for the archery stuff, but you know, Frank Zane was his strength coach.
Really? Holy
Exactly.
crap. I
Yeah,
did
you
not
go,
know that.
oh, okay, so you know, really understand this. And so this weekend, he was sending me pictures from like when he was early in the years when he was hanging out with Zane and he was going to all these bodybuilding shows and all this sudden, like, holy cow, like, and then in the Arnold, when I was going back in the days, he was back in the mid 2000s, he was winning the archery competition at the Arnold. Like, we just had this weird parallel life that we didn't know of each other,
Right.
but like his archery world, going after all the national teams and Olympic teams, stuff like that, that was like my hammer throw world. We were both driven to what we were doing.
Right.
And then he said, he goes, well, you know, when I got to a certain stage, he goes, actually, they moved the nationals of archery to September. And he goes, I quit because I'm going to be elk hunting in September. He goes, I loved hunting more than I love this part.
The
And
competition.
so
I
he
think
goes,
it's
I love
pure.
training for it, but I had to go do the stuff.
Yeah, he sounds like the competition stuff is really cool, right? But then
Yeah.
there's the purity of doing it when maybe you're just with a few friends or maybe when nobody's watching.
Right. And that guy just, he's about deep water as you get. And then you got a Matt Best who, you know, his body's banged up as well because the guy was a ranger, you
That's
know,
right.
he was a ranger, you know, went in the army at 17. And so although he's only mid 30s, like the guy has a lot of hard reps.
We call that like wrestlers, we go, your body has aged in dinosaur years, like or dog years. So if you're 30, you're like your bones and joints are 210 years old.
Exactly. But the cool part about all three of those gentlemen, I have to say that's so neat is, I mean, all of them are giants in their field. You know, they're all giants in their field. They're all highly respected.
Yes.
I wouldn't say anyone could ever afford to be an asshole because you can't, but
Yep.
there's some people that could get away with it for a little bit longer.
Sure.
And all three of those people are very, very generous. They're very, very insightful. They ask great questions, and they genuinely want to see their friends. They want to see everyone succeed, but they really, really, really want to see their friends succeed. And that's something that, you know, unfortunately, I'm around a lot of people. I'm around a lot of people. Unfortunately, some people are toxic. They just are. They don't
100%.
like to see people succeed. It gets them, you know, oh, he's
They
better than me or
think if you succeed, it takes away from them, which is, that lack mentality is very bad. When, to be honest with you, I didn't believe it when I first heard, he's no longer with CrossFit. The founder, Greg Glassman,
whatever.
would say, hey, the guy opening CrossFit across the street from you makes you better. I don't know about that, but I know I'm inspired when another gym is opening up nearby. For example, we sent out like Watify, the software I use, sent out who had the best attendance. This is funny. And this one kid goes, I was top 10. I go, nobody gives a shit about top 10. We laughed all day. We were like, hey, you're top 10 squad. So I said, do you think I want to be the top 10 strength coach in this area? But it was the funniest when he goes, I'm top 10. I go, dude, we don't give a shit about who's 10th. And so, but what I did learn is that somebody else succeeding doesn't take away from me. People will go what they feel in their heart is who they're connected with. And you're right, you must steer clear. And this would be even advice, for kids. Sometimes, I've got my kids are a little older than yours, but it's like you don't want to be around friends who don't want you to do well, and it could go on forever.
Could
Yeah.
go on forever. And that's, again, those three people, I'm now starting to see the secret of their success is they genuinely want to see people succeed. They're not
Yes.
worried about, they don't talk badly about other companies and other companies that copy what they're trying to do and all
Yeah.
this other stuff. And they're kind of like, hey man, we're going to do what we do. And that's awesome. I'm glad that person is succeeding. That's great. And you're like,
Yeah.
it's a great way to look at it because
It's so good.
what everyone else is doing. And so why pay, you know, why pay interest in your mind on that stuff
That's right.
on a debt that's not due. Like it's just cool, man. Hope they're doing great. Or, something great happens in my life. One of those guys will be like, hey, bro, that was awesome. Congrats on that. That doesn't
Yeah.
have anything to do with them, but they genuinely see their friend doing something cool. That doesn't mean that I'm better than Matt Best or not as good or what.
Right.
We had a great conversation this past weekend on a whole bunch of stuff, and business wise, we're sharing ideas and stuff like that. And we literally both said, like, man, it's really nice having someone that could genuinely be excited about your success or your ideas, that's not trying to take them, not trying to make them their own, not trying to like down them or go, oh, well, Black Rifle Coffee's doing amazing. Sornex is awesome. You guys are crushing it. I
That's
love what
right.
you're doing. How
Be
can I
fired
support?
up.
Ask for free stuff. How can I support what you guys are doing? Because I love what you're doing. And then he was like, hey man, first time we talked, hey man, I love what you guys are doing. I'd like to buy a weight room from you. Same thing Rogan said. He did not say, give me a free weight room. He goes, hey brother, would love to hire you to do my weight room. I love the stuff.
Nice.
And I
Yeah.
go, no, this is a guy that could get anything for free, but
That's
what he's
right.
doing is he's supporting people he believes in. And then
Buy
you
it.
build a real relationship off of that. But if you come with your hand out all the time, that's not a relationship.
Yeah.
That's a get. I'm
Give
not.
me, give me. Also, I've always felt like if you don't buy it, it's like I respect it when I buy it. And sometimes people want to just send me shirts, stuff like that. I'm like, don't send me your book. Just let me buy it when it's on Amazon or wherever you're selling it from. Um, and you're right. Just I remember I was in Vermont at my buddy Joe's place, and he had like his trailer with Spartan on it, and he owned that piece of land. And the guy near it was like parking the car, trying to like block it. And he says, hey, buddy, he's like, they're not neighbors. Everybody, it's a small town, no traffic light. Your neighbor is a mile away, essentially. And he's like, I'm exercising my rights to say F you. And I say to Joe, why would he say that? And he goes, small minds, small minds. They don't like to see other people winning. And it's when you can be, Summer Strong is very much like you're so invigorated to be around people and everybody just like supporting and firing one another up. It's like slightly depressing when it's over. It's,
Totally. Is you get a summer strong hangover for sure. I mean, 'cause
yes.
the whole thing is, like you said, it's literally about let's celebrate one another, not showboat ourselves.
Yeah.
And
Yeah, dude.
Neil Kamimura,
Oh,
you
I
follow him?
saw his I saw his presentation. It was friggin' and I mean, dude, it was amazing.
One of the
I
best
can't put it in
presentations
words.
of all time. Yeah, but Neil's the guy is just, I mean, he's a knife maker for those who don't know, but the guy could put any knife that he makes online at any price and it'll sell within 5 minutes.
He's backed up for months selling knives.
I remember I talked to him a while back. He was like, I'm a couple years behind right now.
And it's like, I feel like it's not just the quality, but it's like the story and
Oh,
his heart is on that knife. Like that knife
yep.
it has a story behind it.
It has his DNA in it. But what you watch, most of his social media is blowing up other knife makers and other people. He goes, man,
I've seen that. Yeah.
he goes, I'm not even trying to do my thing. He's like, I'm gonna do my thing and I'm just going to do my thing and it's going to work out. He goes, the whole reason I have social media is to bring more people into knife making and to support other knife makers. And he goes, if I'm doing that, things are going to work out for me. And I'm thinking like,
That is,
wow, so many people are like, gotta be about me, gotta be about, and he's like, I think this guy's doing amazing stuff. And he's
dude,
just
that is
blowing up
great.
other guys, and he has 400,000 followers or whatever. And like he's blowing up some guy with 800 followers that's doing great work. He goes, I think the guy's doing great work.
That is cool, man.
And he's being
As
by it all the time.
it's as a strength coach, locally, when a parent will come to me and say, hey, I was training at John Smith's, I say, and I tell to other coaches, I go, you don't put them down. I always say, I hear they do great stuff. And then if somebody's kind of trying to get into it with me, I go, two things I tend to say. I go, if you're waiting for me to put somebody else down or try to sell you on it, I'm not going to try to sell you, because as a dad who takes my kids to the tennis, the baseball, the this, the that, I always say, I want you to leave feeling great about everything that's going on, not just the strength and conditioning, but the lessons your kid is learning. And in business, that, what you're saying, what Neil does, is we don't see enough of that. We need a lot more of that, just positive, lift one another up. Again, ultimately, Bert, it's like the other guy succeeding, it doesn't take away from there's enough pieces of the pie. And so, yeah. And also what you said is, don't, it's, I'm not going to take my energy and waste it putting down others. No, be creative, support, and stay your path. That's also why I don't really look at what too many other coaches are doing, because I don't want to ever want to question, am I doing this? Like, to me,
Right.
end of the night, tell my wife and kids what I did. Does it make them proud of how I'm running my business and doing things? And, now my kids are old enough where they come to the gym. Whereas when they were, I opened this spot 8 years ago, my wife set up the office with a TV, a beanbag chair, coloring pencils. They would kind of be in there around me. My son would sit on the sleds. My son would climb things. But now he's in there, lifting it. And it's like, all right, he, a kid once said to him, somebody like was like like his bike was down, was like jumping on his wheel, and he's like, dude, what are you doing? And the kid says like, oh, so what, your dad owns a bunch of gyms. And so he says, I can't believe he said this, he goes, the way he worded it was like, first of all, oh, he's like, you get to train for free. He's like, first of all, it's a privilege to get to train at my dad's gym, he says. So my son at the time was like 11. I'm like, where the heck did he come up with that? He says to him, he must have overheard me kind of explaining to the kids that like training and being here is a gift. And me being tough on you is not because I'm mean. It's because I love you and want to see you crushing it. And I guess, he started learning like the value of his bike and going to the gym, because I've kicked them out of my gym. They got a little older, they weren't listening, they were acting out. I was like, get out, to teach them like the gym, is how do I always say, like, it doesn't discriminate. It doesn't care about the color of your skin, the money in your bank account, the car you drive. It's like I can bring a group of people in and we could point out who's the hardest worker, or we could shut off the radio and we could hear, are you talking a lot, or are the weights clanging, and is your heart I
Yeah.
like that, the purity.
Right.
And I have not gone hunting yet, Bert, but I could assume that
Come
that's
down.
kind of the,
Come down. I'd love to take you.
I would love to, man. People have been inviting me, and I was just talking with my wife. I was like, man, I don't want to be waiting for retirement to do stuff like
Right.
that, because it's just good. It cleanses your soul, right? I'm assuming you feel so disconnected.
I do. That's one of the things, because part of all this is trying to gain presence, right? I mean, there's so many times as an entrepreneur or as a strength coach, you're always looking forward, right? Because as a strength coach, you're always, this is my plan. As an entrepreneur, this is my plan, and then all I'm doing is enacting that plan. I know I'm going to do this, 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 this. Cool. What's on the workout? Now I'm going to do it. I'm already thinking, what's the next thing? Going to
You
do
don't
it.
shut off. You're
You don't
like,
shut off, but you're it's like walking through the woods. I've said your flashlight, you don't shine it on your feet, you shine it 10 feet in front of your feet so you know what you're about to get into. Here's the bad thing, where your feet actually are is still dark because you're not living there, you're living in forward.
right.
So I've kind of looked at my life in many ways as an entrepreneur and as a leader. You're always looking forward so much, you're rarely looking right now. And you've actually helped me with that. You've texted me at times, you're like, hey man, I could see you're looking ragged, you're hitting it hard, whatever. Go home, love your family. And you don't understand those little times that you've called me and texted me those things over the years, how
I got
much
to
I
do that more. I got to reach out more. I kind of hit it too. living near the beach. My son, I guess that's the thing. Like they get into YouTube, so he started studying fishing. So he's got freshwater poles, saltwater poles. So we did a lot of fishing,
Awesome.
and we're near the beach, and so when I see you also doing things like you're skateboarding again, and I grew up, we're 80s kids, skateboarding, BMX, freestyle.
Yeah.
um Bert, did you ever see the movie, what do you call it, Bones Brigade?
Dude, that's one of my favorite movies of all time.
I,
And it stood for Animal Chin?
yeah.
Of
So, dude,
course.
I grew up in a hub of skateboarding, BMXing. Mike Vallely is from Edison.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah,
Yeah, dude.
freestyle, but he and Rodney Mullins were like the freestyle freaks.
Right. And there was another Rodney. I forget his name. He was from our Edison, Metuchen area. They owned a skate shop called Shut Skates. But, that is some lessons in that. I was asking because, like, I sometimes see the creativity of Sorinex. And do you remember in Bones Brigade that they were like, when we market our skateboards, we don't actually talk about skateboarding. They're like, it's just like us standing in front of a car on fire. Like,
Or a chicken or something.
yeah, it just,
So interesting. You're probably the only person that I've known from like that has picked up on that. And that is one of the secrets of our marketing
yeah,
is I look back to the things that moved me as a kid and
right.
go, well, how do we replicate that scenario?
It's
What I was
freedom.
a huge Bones Brigade guy, Bones Brigade, Bosco Brotherhood. Like start
Ah,
looking at some of the things and
yeah.
what did Stacy Peralta do? He pulled together the best skaters that were all from different areas.
Under the radar a bit, kind of renegade, not following the rules. To me,
Yeah,
that's interesting too, is like when I was on my bike, we had tracks behind the elementary and middle school,
yeah,
but I was never just a BMX rider. I was like a street rider. I would
yeah.
ride street,
A little bit of a
dirt.
pirate, right?
I didn't care. And I still feel that way with my training is I'm a powerlifting focused guy. I'm a weightlifting. I don't give a shit what I lift. I
Yeah.
don't discriminate against, what I'm lifting. And when you did those activities, you kind of, lost yourself and found yourself. So I feel a lot of that. Like when I'm fishing with my son,
Good.
we go this year, we rented a boat, and I was like, oh, now I got the bug. Like now we're gonna be renting this thing or buying a boat. But I could see, I feel the importance of people needing to go and do that stuff. Like shut it down and
Shut it down.
go
And live
escape.
presently, because so that was what I was going back to. I have such a hard time living presently, but the things I thought about, I've thought a lot of this stuff. I said the times when I was most present in life, back to when I was a kid, skateboarding, learning new tricks, you had to be present or you were going to freaking kill yourself.
Yeah, break your
Or you're
arm.
on a half pipe or whatever, launch ramp or whatever. You had to have courage. You had to be dialed in. You had to feel that every little bit of those bearings rolling inside on that truck. Like you were so dialed to like the flow state of what you were doing, and it was intoxicating. And then later in life, it was lifting weights. Like I said, light weights aren't fun for me really because you don't have to be in your flow state.
Yeah,
Heavy ass weights trying to kill you, that's fun because you have to be present.
you do.
Hammer throw. I mean, I remember being dialed in so many days where you're striking the ball into the middle and you're like, I could feel my big toe grinding into the ground. And that was what I was focusing on. Derek Witzke and I talk about. Like, that's that flow state you get into that's only because you're being hyper present. And then what I found later was like sometimes like on a spot and stalk archery hunt, nothing in the world matters. And every step you take is the most important step of your life, or you blow it. And that's where I've been able to block out the world and block out business stuff and all this other stressors and go, I am totally in this space. And I
Yeah.
know I'm only getting to visit it, but let me visit it as long as possible because I have to come back out into reality in a minute. But right now, I'm here and this is my time. I'm in my bubble and this is what I get to do. Or I put 500 pounds on my back and I go, I could shut the world out because for the next 3 seconds, I get to live in this world for a minute and it's my
Right.
world. And those are the things that I found early on. And I go, I have to have that in my life in some way. I have to. So for me and my cognitive function and my emotional health, I have to be able to go into that bubble of whatever that presence, that hyper presence is.
Yeah.
And it goes all the way back to us being a
And you know, speaking of kind of the Bones Brigade marketing, you can't do that if that's not really who you are.
exactly. It doesn't work.
And so if you're not that kind of free inside, you can't do that stuff. You
Right.
can't create in such a way. And I guess that being said, you know, the message to people listening and watching is just do you.
Just
Just
do
be
you,
you.
man.
If
Yeah.
you don't believe in a lot of different things and you believe in one style of training, do that. Don't be afraid. You know, it'll change down the road. Maybe not. You know, look at Bill Gillespie, still powerlifting,
You'll
60s, right?
power look at
In his
Louis Simmons.
60s.
Like those guys are deep water, and I respect the heck out of it.
Yeah.
But or just you could switch horses. Just make sure you're riding that horse fast and hard, and you're that's what you're into. Like, and that was what it was for me. But going back to, like you said, whether it's skateboarding or, it's very easy to see if you really look at it and understand why Sorinex is what Sorinex is. You look at the things that my dad and I have done. You know, I was a skateboarder. You see those elements of the rebel, of the doing things differently, of the innovation and the excitement and the free thinking and stuff. You see that in there. You see the grind and the stuff for the hammer throw. And there's also like an, I mean, if a skateboarder was going to be an athlete, like a Olympic athlete, a hammer thrower is it, because still no one likes them. And they're still doing weird crap that it's like, it's kind of the bastard,
That's right.
it's kind of the redheaded stepchild of the athletic world. And then
I
it was Highland
think
Games. And then it was this. And so it's like, okay, I always see, I kind of go towards the stuff that not everyone knows and likes and it's kind of different, but that's okay. But I'm going to try to be the best at it. And that's what, and Pops did the same thing. No one would know when people were Olympic lifting or doing grip work and all this other stuff,
you're
but he
right.
was
Yeah.
passionate about it. He was like, I don't care. No one's ever lifted a blob or done a number 3, or no one even gives a shit about it. No one gave a shit about the number 3 because it wasn't even a thing. But I mean, to think back and go, Pops trained to close the number 3 before it was even called a number 3, before it was even a thing. Like that type of interest and love in something, that's what Sorinex is
That
about.
was his art. That was his art. Like somebody else's art is, I said this to somebody, I don't recall, but as a kid, I remember a lot of people working on cars in their garages.
Yeah.
And I'm like, I have not seen that in a million years.
Right.
And I'm like, are we too consumed on this? Like, I just remember seeing many, you know, whether it was cars, dirt bikes, things of that nature. You don't see that. You know, my gym in my hometown is next to a machine shop, and I I tell those people bring stuff to them like to fix because we're near the beach, motor parts for the boat, and they're like, yeah, they had stuff that that company is no longer in business, so we build the thing that fits the motor. And you know, you said the skateboarding and the rebel, it makes me think here we are now, gym owners are viewed as like outlaws,
Yeah. Yeah.
you know, and
Especially the good ones that everyone knows, right?
yeah,
They
it's
all have that same DNA in there.
wild. It's wild. So we're going to shut it down. We will do a part 2
Oh man, I
down the
just
road, Bert. This was great. Now, I guess the question that people are asking is do we know if Summer Strong is happening?
we don't right now. My goal is for it to happen. It's
Right.
really going to depend on how the next couple months shake out, whether it's a smaller event but still happening, or you know, we're doing a couple other little events, like the Winter Strong will be like a small invite only event, but we're
Yep.
going to do COVID testing on it. So that's kind of like, we're going to try it out and say, how many people can we arguably, you know, with the CDC guidelines, like all this other stuff, like there's a little pilot, let's try it out and see how it
Yeah.
stands. So it broke my heart to not do it last year. I think it was the right choice not doing it.
Right, right.
But I'll be just very clear. Like, my goal is not to end things like that. I think it's so important for people to be present, for people to celebrate one another, for people
People
to
are
look each
asking
other
about
up.
it months and months in advance,
Yeah.
they're worried.
And to shake a person's hand, to hug somebody, to see them, and that is so, so important. Whatever we need to do to get back to that, we need to get back to that.
Dude, the last time I was at Summer Strong, I could barely get to the speakers because I one person after another, hug, conversation. And yeah, you're right. It is who do you call it? Derek Woodsky explained it best as homecoming,
Yeah.
because outlaws like us sometimes feel lost until we are amongst our brothers and sisters. Sometimes, people like myself who have these small private warehouses, you feel alone. you
Yes.
you do feel alone. Then you get to Summer Strong and you're like, oh, dude, yeah, this is it. And it was funny. I don't know what restaurant you guys like. We gathered one night. It was like a pub, and what was it called?
Private property.
Private property. You put
Yep.
a squat rack out back, and these guys were so blasted. They had so
Oh,
many
yeah, no,
beers.
that was a river rat. That was amazing.
Okay. They were squatting, they were shrugging. I mean, they must have had 6 plates. They were doing the circus dumbbells, but they were sweating bullets. I was like, dude, those guys are so drunk. It's just scary to squat and do all those heavy lifts. But I think it was like a Viking fest for them. It was so cool.
Yeah, well, it's we could live on that. We could go back to that and live there.
Yeah,
Every once in a while, you could visit it, right?
that's
It's where
right.
all of us want to be, in my opinion. I mean,
Oh
maybe
man.
but
It
that's
it
the
was
best.
so it was so funny. So all right, to be continued for everybody listening,
Right.
Sorinex.com, go to Sorinex on Instagram where you could keep up with all the different facilities, whether it's collegiate, military, unknown, undisclosed locations. And then also you got the private guys like myself, guys who are setting up in their homes, setting up small warehouse facilities, which I'm the big advocate for with, my personality. If you're setting up a gym, I like the low hassle, high profit, small
Yep.
setup, but you guys recently set a guy up in the Bahamas. It's it's
Yeah.
really cool. And so for the people out there listening, it's Sorinex will have a place in your heart. I'm going to leave it at that because you can't really explain it. You got to put your hands on the stuff to know exactly what I'm telling you about.
Thank you, Zach. Thank you. I mean, I appreciate that, and I appreciate your listeners, and the culture that you've created over the years has been remarkable. It intertwines with our culture. We didn't plan that, but it just like-minded people, and to see you after almost 20 years, and we're
Yeah.
still doing this, and I still getting to talk to you. You still have the fire, the
Yep.
excitement, still getting chills, and if we could do that another 20 years, then we've
I
won.
know. In another 20 years, we'll be in our mid 60s. My son will have gone to I don't know how many Summer Strongs. He will have a Sorinex rack in his house. And my kids, will now, uh, my son has been training on your equipment since I opened the first location up in North Jersey. So if he's 12, he's 12 and a half. That's a 4.5-year old. I guess he was 8, working the original jammer arms, doing snatches on jammer arms. That's pretty wild. It's
That's super
pretty,
cool. Yeah, I
it's,
think he'll turn out pretty well.
he's going to be okay, but
Okay.
now he's spoiled. So
Yeah, yeah,
like,
yeah, that's a part of it.
it's like, he's spoiled. And then I always think to myself, when my kids are in college or whatever the heck the future holds, then I have this, Ethan, what did your strength coach do today? Like, tell me the equipment, what's in there?
Oh, yeah.
So no pressure on their future strength coaches for college. So we're going to shut it down. Big thanks to everybody for listening. Share this with your friends. Go to Sorinex.com and Sorinex on Instagram. And if you want a real treat, go to the YouTube channel and go way back to like '06 to the days of Bert squatting 6 plates, seeing some wild training footage with Cyborg. Good times.
Yes,
And
sir.
it's been great. So Bert, hang tight while I shut this down. And again, thank you, everybody.